What's up, everybody? I got some player props for you guys. We got Monday Night Football, NFL Week 9, Chargers versus Jets. Not the most exciting game in the world, but I have two player props of the pumped up variety for you guys to lock in. If you are unfamiliar, if you're new to my channel, what I do is I pump up player props. I find player props that I like. Instead of taking them at the main line, I juice those numbers up a little bit. The goal here is to get pretty juicy odds so you can lower your win percentage and still make money. It has been going extremely well for me so far. I'm recording this before Sunday Night Football, so I do have one play outstanding at the time of this recording. But so far today, I've hit one of my pumped up props. We are currently up 1.3 units. Obviously, it will depend on how the game goes, but we're guaranteed to have a profitable pumped up day today. Hopefully, we can have an even better day if my Sunday Night Football play hits. Overall, up over 18 units in only 3 weeks of doing this. I started doing this in week 7. It's been going incredibly well, as I mentioned. So if you've been riding, if you've been tailing, comment and let me know. Most importantly, remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are not already. As I mentioned, I got 2 for Monday Night Football, and let's get pumped up. So our first play that we're going to go ahead and lock in here is Austin Eckler, 7+ receptions, plus 320 odds at FanDuel. So this is a game in which I expect the Chargers to have trouble moving the ball. Elite defense from the Jets, specifically elite pass rush from the Jets. So I'm projecting Justin Herbert to struggle and need to check it down a ton. So that obviously leaves a ton of targets for Austin Eckler. This is also a play because of the injuries that the Chargers currently are dealing with at wide receiver. Mike Williams is out for the year with a torn ACL. He's been out. But for this game specifically, Josh Palmer is out. He's on IR, so he's out for the next month with a knee injury. And in games where the Chargers are missing their receiver threats, the slack gets picked up by Austin Eckler. So it's not as though it's rocket science to say, yeah, their receiving threat running back is going to get more work with the receivers out. But that is exactly what we are playing here. It's been the case based for the past couple years with Austin Eckler. When they're missing a receiver, he gets more work. It's limited sample size, but last week, in which really was the first week that Austin Eckler looked healthy. He's only played in 4 games. Week 1, he played great, and then he got hurt. The 2 games back from injury, he just didn't look right. Last week, he looked great. That was also the week in which Josh Palmer, he came into the game hurt. He re-aggravated that injury. Last week, Austin Eckler had 7 receptions on 8 targets. It's a running theme, as I mentioned, that he gets more targets when their receivers are hurt. Dating back to last year, he's played 8 games without Keenan Allen, and he's hit 7+ receptions in 5 of those 8 games. Now, Keenan Allen is obviously playing in this game, so I'm not saying that this is a play only because the possibility that Keenan's out. But with no Palmer and no Mike Williams, someone's got to soak up those targets. He's played 8 games, Austin Eckler has, without Mike Williams. He's had 7+ receptions in 4 of those 8 games. 2 of those games are taking into account this year when, again, I said he didn't look right. So he was still hobbled with his ankle injury. This game, no Palmer, no Williams. I think Austin Eckler is going to get a ton of targets. Not only that, but also just because of the game script and the way the Jets and how well they play defense. So our first play, again, Austin Eckler, 7+ receptions. Next up, obviously we're sticking in the same game. Garrett Wilson, 8+ receptions, plus 300 odds at FanDuel. I'll admit, to get the negative part out first, I'll admit I don't love backing a Zach Wilson dependent prop. But against a terrible Chargers defense and the fact that Zach Wilson just peppers Garrett Wilson with targets, I do think there is reason to believe that this could happen. This year, it was a slower start for Garrett Wilson. The first 4 games of the year, first 3 games of the year, he didn't have more than 5 receptions in any of those 3 games. But if you look at his last 4, he's had at least 7 in 3 of those 4 games and has hit this 8+ number in 2 of his last 4 games. And here are his last 4 reception totals: 9, 3, 8, and 7. So he's right around that number that we need him to get, which is 8. And let's not forget, the last 2 games the Jets have played have been 2 of the most pathetic offensive performances that you'll ever see. Somehow they're 2-0 in those games. It's because of how good their defense is. But even with pathetic offensive performances, it still led to a ton of targets and a ton of receptions for Garrett Wilson. As I mentioned, he's also getting peppered with targets that same 4-game span: 14 targets, 7, 12, 13 targets in that 4 games. Granted, those are Zach Wilson targets, So they're a little bit different than like a Drew Brees targets, but still, that's a ton of work that Garrett Wilson is getting. And this actually might be a game that Zach Wilson could possibly maybe have some success. As bad as Zach Wilson is, the Chargers defense is horrible too. They rank 27th, in total DVOA, just looking at defense. 26th ranked passing defense, according to DVOA. And just looking at some raw stats, they give up 297 passing yards per game. That's dead last. They give up a completion percentage of 68.2%. That's ranked 24th. Yards per attempt is 8.3, which is second least in the NFL, second worst in the NFL. And their yards per completion, 12.3, which is ranked 28th. So literally by every single possible statistical measure, the Chargers are a horrible passing defense. So let's hope that Zach Wilson targets Garrett Wilson. Let's hope that they have some success doing so. I chose receptions over yards in case it's one of those things where he just gets a ton of quick passes, slants around the line of scrimmage if the Chargers try to limit the deep ball. So that's why I went with receptions. If you want to take yards too, I wouldn't hate it. Obviously, I'm only officially tracking receptions. And that's all I got. 2 plays for you guys to lock in. If one of these cash, we are at least profitable. If both cash, I'm not going to say we'll be rich, but we won't not be rich. So let's hope for that. Appreciate everybody for watching. Again, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and have a good one.